No, the 2024 Celtics are not among the league's best in history. Absolutely not. There's five easy reasons, maybe six. The first is I remember the East was really poor this year. Even at full health, there were a lot of bad teams and bad organizations that still needed one to two pieces just to be able to run with a, semifinals, finals type of a roster. And that's where you get a lot of your wins for win totals where people are just lazily going into history and comparing now. It's apples to oranges. So you're going to get a lot of wins on these Eastern teams in the regular season and even more in the playoffs. The only type of Eastern team that really pushed Boston was the Indiana Pacers, who only got there off of a Siakam deadline trade and good coaching, and they just played fast pace. That's it. Two, there weren't any gatekeepers to win the belt from in the last 4 years, but particularly this year. If they had played a gatekeeper who had won the title, who had a good team still, then we'd stamp them, accredited. But think of the last 4 years: Nuggets, Warriors, Bucks, Lakers. The only team in those four that had a pretty decent roster the following year after they had won was the 2021 Bucks, but you could see that team was drifting away from their coach. They got rid of him. You could see that team was drifting away from guys like Drew. They got rid of him. And that team was also hit by injuries. But what the Lakers did after 2020 was criminal with their midlife crisis with Russ. What the Warriors did after barely winning it in 2022 was just ride the same exact guys who, of course, have a championship malaise and hangover. They didn't flip any of their young or old champions, any of the champions that they didn't really trust. They had them into a new guy with a complementary skill set, kind of equal value, and keep the team desperate to win. Didn't do that. The Nuggets never had a replacement for Bruce Brown in mind. Can't do that in the modern game, especially when the league flipped this year and defense all of a sudden started mattering a lot more. So they didn't have any gatekeepers to win the belt from. We would have felt better about that. Three, they're a historically uncommon type of roster to win the title. The other time when a team like that won the title was the 2004 Pistons, where you have complementary skill sets. You don't have one main generational guy leading the way. So, of course, we didn't see that coming. Speaking of not seeing this coming, let's not pretend like anyone picked the Dallas Mavericks to make the finals. I picked them last year. I was 1 year too early. But then they got Kyrie, and I was like, no, 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 I'm off of this. The reason why is the Dallas team, even after getting all these deadline guys, still didn't get any perimeter defenders. That's the biggest thing you need to win playoff basketball at a high level. So no one expected the Dallas Mavericks to be in the finals. No one thought they were a great team in the finals. And yet, folks were still picking them over this Boston Celtics team, mostly because this Celtics team didn't have any team to hold them accountable and nip at their heels or even trade punches with them in the Eastern Conference. You talk iron sharpens iron. The Boston Celtics were the only piece of iron in the East. And I actually felt bad for them going into this finals for that reason. Last two reasons, they promoted their head coach from the bench off of a scandal. That's crazy in hindsight. You can't just expect that guy is going to be the guy that he can elevate the way that Missoula did and the way that folks like me were wrong about. But of course, that's a reasonable concern. And that could only be answered in the finals because the East was so bad. And lastly, the only two guys on the Boston Celtics that you knew would show up under the brightest lights against the best in the world was Drew Holiday because of his chip and his style of play, and it was Jaylen Brown because he went to the next level after getting paid. He has been just a dog, intensely playing offense and defense all season long. So it's okay that this Celtics team is just a champion. They were the best team in the league this year, but they stay in that room. They're not among the best of all time. Not yet.